The ATT Secretariat is established to assist state parties in the effective implementation of the treaty. In assisting state parties in implementing the treaty, we carry out specific functions which are set out in Article 18 of the treaty. And these functions include, amongst others, the following: maintaining a database of national points of contact for information exchange under the treaty, maintaining the reporting system under the ATT, facilitating the work of conferences and meetings that are conducted under the ATT. And in doing so, we therefore provide support to the president of conference, to the bureau, which are structures established under the ATT, to the working groups as well as the chairs who are facilitating those working groups. In addition to that, we also facilitate the matching of offers and assistance as contemplated under Article 18 of the treaty. We also serve as the administrator of the Voluntary Trust Fund, which is the facility established to support states in the implementation of the obligations under the treaty. In summary, these are the functions that we conduct as a secretariat. They can be summarized into three categories. There's one category that deals with administrative responsibilities. The second category is about the policy substantive support to the ATT process. And the third category could be the administration of the Voluntary Trust Fund. So these are the three streams that we support as the ATT Secretariat. The treaty came into force in December 2014. So we have been in operation for about 3 years now. In the 3 years of existence, we observe that we have quite a number of states that are engaged in the treaty and which are also participating in the work of the ATT. At this point in time, we have 94 state parties, and we also have 41 states that have signed the treaty. And if you look at these numbers, you can realize that these are pretty impressive numbers. But we are not complacent by these numbers. We understand that for the treaty to be truly universal, we still require to have as many states coming on board as reasonably possible. But if you make an assessment of the number of states that are involved, you just realize that a number of states are starting then to implement the provisions of the treaty. The composition of the membership of the ATT comprises of states that have well-established export control systems, as well as those that have just come to the export control world. So those are at a stage of implementing the controls under the treaty. But our assessment as a secretariat is that the treaty is indeed becoming much more effective as we move forward. And as we are beginning to see, states are starting to export as well as import arms, and in the process of doing so, they apply the provisions of the treaty. We make this conclusion on the basis of the reports that we receive from time to time from states as contemplated under the treaty. So we are quite happy that the treaty is moving forward. As we move forward, I think the level of implementation would consolidate. Civil society organizations are an important stakeholder or an important player in the ATT. They play a very important role in promoting the objectives of the treaty, firstly. And they are also playing a very important role in supporting states in implementing their obligations under the treaty. And if you look at the mandating documents of the ATT, they recognize the role of civil society organizations. As an example, the rules of procedure recognize that civil society can participate in the work of the Conference of State Parties and other meetings of the ATT. And at the same time, within the Voluntary Trust Fund, there are rules that allow for civil society organizations to participate in the implementation of those VTF projects. So we are indeed seeing these organizations as quite important to the process. As the treaty process is moving towards substantive treaty implementation, we realize that the focus of civil society is beginning to move gradually towards supporting states in implementing the provisions of the treaty, through supporting states in implementing as an example, the Voluntary Trust Fund projects. And we're happy then to observe that there is indeed partnership that is starting to form between states as well as civil society. And moving forward, we are very optimistic that this kind of relationship will continue and it can be sustained for the better good of the treaty. The implementation of the treaty is dependent on quite a number of factors. And some of these factors, I would mention but a few. One, it's dependent on the political will of states. Two, it's dependent on capacity of individuals that are involved in the process. And thirdly, it's dependent on the ATT setting up a right agenda for states as well as all other stakeholders to engage. I therefore consider the GCSP course as a course that is aimed at creating capacity within officials who are involved in the implementation of the treaty, by helping them to better understand the content of the treaty as well as its implication. Because once we have a heightened level of understanding of these two aspects of the treaty, the likelihood of effective treaty implementation is actually great. So we consider the GCSP course as very important as helping us to create this capacity among states. Because as officials are coming through the course, as they go back to the capitals or go back to their missions, their capacity to firstly engage at the current debate of the HET here in Geneva and elsewhere, as well as their capacity to implement the treaty at a national level, is basically heightened. So I was observing the composition of the participants in this course, and many of them are officials who are playing or who are holding very key positions where they come from. And it's important, therefore, for us to continue to ensure that those who hold positions that will actually advance the object of the treaty are actually capacitated accordingly. And I consider then the GCSP course as very important in that endeavor to actually build capacity of treaty implementation.